gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough.
Today I did a 5-part circuit for legs. The idea of this was that nothing was going to be super heavy, just a lot of blood flow and annoying the crap out of my legs to target all the small little muscles we don't often get to. So I started with adductor and abductor machines, and I really like this because it helps get into the groin and the smaller muscles of the hip. So usually when these muscles are pumped up and full of blood, the hips feel more secure during squats especially, and it also helps with kind of hip security feeling in sumo deadlifts. Not so much for conventional, but it wouldn't be a bad idea just to throw it in. So this helps kind of work those little nooks and crannies of the hips. So typically I'll do some high rep sets around 40 to 60 seconds, and then some heavier sets between 20 and 30 seconds. So this is the 2 exercises I used to start my circuit, and then I kind of went on to the main lifts you'll see in the upcoming videos. This was the 3rd exercise. This is the west side barbell inverse curl. This targets the hamstrings, and this is kind of a variation used more for strength development and explosivity rather than, say, a lying hamstring curl or a seated hamstring curl machine. So the reason why is typically this is done with some momentum involved and more explosive style contractions, where with lying and seated hamstring curls you kind of go slower and can focus more on muscle control. So they're more muscle intention versus movement intention. So I'm using this one because I detached a hamstring last year, and I also have torn my hamstring before, so this is a good way for me to kind of build it back up. And I personally feel whenever my progressions are going well in this machine, my squats and conventional deadlifts are going to be usually at their peak as well. So this is a great exercise for hamstring strength. This was the 4th exercise. This is our Sissy squat stand that my dad and I kind of reinforced, and we reinforced the framework of it so it wouldn't bend. We added band attachments and some wheels and stuff. And I'm using it to mimic the west side barbell hip quad developer, which is kind of like what you would see here, where my ankles are in place and my body is laying back and then lifts back up through a quad contraction. So the west side barbell machine has a back support. I'm using bands here. This is just a cheap-ass version of that big machine. So it seems to work well. I'm sure the regular machine would work better, but it's a couple grand, which I don't want to spend. So this is a very good alternative, and it's a really good way to get a quadricep contraction from a fully stretched position. So this is really good for building the entire quad from the knee up to the hip, making sure you don't have any weak links along that chain. And this was the final exercise of the 5-part circuit, which was a horrible, horrible choice to put this thing last. So it's heels elevated. I'm using the safety squat bar to just kind of help give ease to the shoulders, plus it kind of gives a better drop down, like full range of motion, rather than having my arms extended behind me on a barbell. So this alleviates some upper back tightness, which then kind of restricts my depth. So having the heels elevated takes a little bit of ankle mobility issues out. It also allows you to push harder into your toes and into the knees to get more quad development. So I'm using a light weights, that way if it sounds violent that I'm pushing my knees, it's actually okay. So I'm doing it within a controlled amount of weight. And I'm working on flexing the muscle on the way up. So I was doing slow eccentrics to try to wear out the quads, and then going up whatever speed I could because my quads were pretty much dying by this point. So this was my finish.